I'll kind of throw it over to Rob initially as we wait for the first question. Obviously, we kind of came in mathematically number 4, a number you're very familiar with, and yet we end up at 2. So maybe just some of your initial reactions to what's a good night for the LA Kings.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting night when we come into this because you know all the odds and the different scenarios, and they're picking the turning the cards over, and you're seeing different names, but you're trying to calculate the different percentages that give you an opportunity. At the end of the day, yeah, you're right. We're sitting 4th coming into this, and we finished 2nd, so we're excited about that opportunity.
As we wait for some questions here, Rob, maybe talk a little bit about your day. Obviously, we saw you in the office there with Luke on television. How was this Friday for you compared to other Fridays?
Well, I mean, I think we knew the anticipation leading up to it. We came in, we had to do kind of a run through, obviously, with the NHL to make sure the virtual capabilities, all kind of a new format for everybody. But a feeling of excitement, understanding on where we're going, and the ability to draft a player at a high level. But again, I think we were the only team that had the range from 1 to 7, at least the teams that were focused here today. So again, we moved up, and we're excited about that.
The first question has come in, and again, I remind everyone to please ask the question via the Q&A tab at the bottom. Mark Yannetti and his staff lead the drive for ranking the players. However, you've mentioned being heavily involved in scouting the first round this past year. How active have you been personally, Rob, this year, and in terms of the preparation and the league shutdown the past few months?
Yeah, no, we were involved in a lot of calls. We went through the interview process, with the players. That was all done virtually. That's usually done at the combine. I think more the interaction with Mark and his staff is more the last couple of years is a direction. We had a firm direction of where the team was going. We understand the importance of last year's draft, this year's draft, with not only the high picks, but the volume of picks, and then understanding the direction we were going in. So I think a combination of that allowed us, to be very involved. Now we have some time to draft. Now we got a lot more specific where, the second pick here first, but then we also know going forward where we're going to be slotted. So lots of work to do, but lots of communication going on.
Next question comes in from Andrew Knoll with the Los Angeles Daily News. Hi, Rob. First off, congratulations on the nice draw. First, let me ask you how your scouting process has been affected by circumstances. Yeah. Obviously, we didn't see prospects in the playoffs, the under-18 Worlds, etc. Assuming you've had to conduct interviews remotely, maybe some of the advantages and or disadvantages.
Yeah, I think the advantage is based off of video. So really what you missed, you're right, you're mentioning some of the playoffs, but some of the players that you may be looking may not have qualified. The U18 was a bigger tournament. That's where the collection of these players get to play peer versus peer, and you get to watch and see the difference from the beginning of the year till the end of the year and what they've done. So, but every team's in that same position. We were fortunate. I think the trips to Europe from our scouting staff had primarily all taken place by the time of the pause. But that's what we mean. I think the video really comes into play, breaking down not just the first round, second, third, but complete throughout the draft and now the interview process. And now it takes another step in that interview process because you have a range of 3 or 4 players that could be in that area, so you can really dive in on the early pick.
2020 has obviously been a crazy year. Maybe a little bit of unusual karma that the number 1 team ended up being the number 1 team, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's a little strange when they flip it over and you have to process that there is a secondary lottery going to take place, or a phase 2 where and not necessarily knowing the exact teams, the ones that are playing each other, and then ones will be eliminated that would be involved in that. So everything has kind of taken a different path since the pause, and you maneuver your way around it.
Rob, the next question comes in from Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in San Diego. Lee wants to know, talk a little bit about the depth of this year's draft and to go about, whether, drafting a junior player compared to maybe a European player?
Yeah, no, I think in the depth, our primary look at this scenario, we knew we were between 1 and 7, and the top 3 players, and then we had a group from 4 to 8, pretty much, that were very similar in that different positions, but ranking wise and the way we had it. So for us to be able to move up and get into that top 3 was important, obviously. And now, yeah, the part Christian Rutu heads up our European scouting department there, and Mark Unetti with his overall structure with the whole staff and the amount of views of the Europeans and North Americans. A lot of that will come into play now, and knowing the backgrounds and knowing the types of players, and that's where the work will come in now, because the play is already done.
You just mentioned Christian, you mentioned Yank there. Lisa Doman asking if you're planning on having our scouting staff travel this summer. For instance, the games in Plymouth at the end of July, and how you are going about in terms of scheduling scouting on the whole right now.
Right, and a lot of that will be dictated by country to country and state to state, and the medical governance and how they're going to do that. Where available, health will come number one. Obviously, I know Christian's reached out because of the feeling of some of the European leagues starting maybe a little earlier than what we have over here. There's lots of question marks. I think a lot of us will be in the same boat, but again, a lot of that will be dictated by the head medical, the governing bodies that run the countries in the state.
Thanks for that, Lisa. Dennis Bernstein, quick and to the point, does this draft pick accelerate the plan?
Accelerate the plan, maybe at the level of player, yes. In the fact that when you're talking picks 1 and 2 in the draft, they're very high profile players. Now, the situation that we were in, I think we knew we'd be in this type of situation where we would be in that lottery. So that has been factored into the plan. Hopefully this does speed it up because of the caliber and the adjustment to that player in the NHL.
John Hovens talking about a position. He asks, is it safe to say you'll lean toward a forward again this year with this first round pick?
That's to be debated for sure. There's a defenseman or two that could be in the mix when you talk about the top players in the draft. It's heavily forward in the top rankings by far. So all open for discussion. And like I said, I take a lot of pride in what Mark and his staff can do and the capabilities in merging their views, their opinions, the analytics, and all the information they take in to ultimately coming out what they say is the best for our organization.
Adam asking, maybe along those lines, regardless of position, choosing the best player available. Maybe answered that already, but maybe expand on that a little.
Yeah, and I think we look at that a lot. I think we did the structure in the early rounds as the best player available, and then there may be some adjustments. We ultimately put a game plan together, what we would like to accomplish at the draft based off of where we're picking and the number of picks. That can change draft day with different moves, moving forward and backwards and different things. So all that will factor into the game plan. But for the most part, the best player is who you take.
Our friend Lisa asking a fun question here. Has Marco started campaigning? I'll let you fill in the blank there.
I'm sure he has. I don't know. I haven't checked my phone yet, but I'm sure that he's working at it.
Adam, again, do you need whomever you select? Is it a must? I'll use the word must. He didn't, but is it a must that this player, this pick, be ready to play in the NHL next season?
I wouldn't say it's a must, and that will be determined through camps and projections going forward when the draft takes place. There's a lot of different circumstances that can come into play. I would say that the higher picks or the higher rated players in the draft obviously have the capability of doing that, and we'll have to determine that at the right time.
Neil's asking, hopefully, first and foremost, you and your family are doing well, Rob, and we echo those sentiments. He has some GMs have mentioned that there's a certain uniqueness to potentially watching prospects at summer and fall camps. Does that shift any changes in your approach to the draft, maybe overall, maybe not just so much focused on this selection?
Well, it gives you another opportunity to get viewings and see the maturity. Players can mature a lot. So since the pause, I think we're at 3 or 4 months, depending on what leagues, if they do start before the NHL draft. So now you're getting another 4 or 5 months of maturity or growth out of these players. So there is the scenario where you may be able to view some of these players a little bit more with some more time involved.
We'll take a couple more questions here. Dennis Bernstein again. If you choose a forward, is your need more pressing at center or wing?
I don't know. That's up to debate. You're going to look at all those factors. I think our turnover and our need is throughout our lineup. With the veterans we have coming back and understanding their ages and where they're headed in their careers, it opens a lot of avenues, whether it's winger, forwards, or D.
We'll just take the last couple of questions, maybe a little more general. Lee Hamilton, just talk a little bit about the rebuild at the moment, how you evaluate how far we've come. He asked, force feeding the kids, so to speak.
Well, that's what we've tried to avoid at the best case scenario. I don't think we want to rush anyone when we don't have to, and we want to make sure when they do step into the NHL, they're fully prepared for it. The difference in transition from a couple years ago till now, not only in the NHL level, American League level too, definitely an involvement of youth and a number of picks throughout the last couple of years that we'll start turning pro and start signing. It will inject into the lineup, but I think we've kind of planned that this would be the scenario coming into this year with the amount of picks and similar to what it was last year. I don't foresee that again next year with the type of roster we have. So we knew that these 2 years were very key, not only in the quality of high picks, but also the quantity of picks.
Last couple of questions. Helene, hello, Helene. Slightly off topic, but have you gotten any word from the league on whether the Kings as a non-postseason team will be allowed to hold camps, development sessions, etc.?
Yeah, no, not yet. We're waiting all that direction. The ability of a development camp and the timing of the development camp, with 7 teams and potentially some more before that play-in, before the playoffs start. So in all those scenarios, there hasn't been a final directions, lots of different scenarios, lots of planning on different models, but we await the final direction from the league, which will obviously come at a certain time.
Second to last question. Anything you'd be willing to share on the search for the Ontario head coach at this time?
Yeah, no, currently, Glenn Murray and Rich Shealy head up that search. And what we've done, or what they have done, is compiled a list of criteria, first and foremost, before even getting a list of candidates. So here's your criteria. Here's what you look for in a coach. Now we take the list of candidates, the ones that have approached us, the ones that we would want to approach. You put them in and you start bringing that number down to a manageable number. Currently, they're in the stage where they're conducting very similar type interviews as we're doing now. And it's more of I wouldn't say classify as a total interview, but it's more of an introduction, but it's done virtually. And they'll take that group and they'll get it down to a workable number where we'll do a future interview, and it may have to be virtually where you get a lot more in depth. And then at some point we hope to have them out for a face-to-face and understand a little bit about their values and character.
And finally, one more question. Jack Harris jumps in here from the Times. Then I have a question for you at the end. Interesting question. So close, so far, so close. What was sort of that roller coaster feeling? Not a disappointment not to come one, but so close.
Yeah. Well, so you got to picture the scenario. So Luke and I are in one room, right? And the guy who runs all our numbers is Jeff Solomon. He's in another room, but but we can't see them, right? So they're picking the cards and they're putting it in. So Luke and I are trying to calculate in our heads, okay, so where are we sitting right now? And then you hear Jeff yell, well, we're in the top 3. So now you get a little bit excited. You're like, okay, so where do we fit in the top 3? But there's a team that's not even in the bottom 7 that's going to be in this. So you wish you had it set up a little bit so Jeff could communicate with us, but those are kind of some of the things that went through. And each time I think they went from, I don't know whether it was 5 to 4 or 3, they had a couple commercial breaks. So then these guys are running in, they're telling us a different odds. So you're trying to play all that out, but you also got to keep a pretty straight face when they're picking the cards. So.
So to clarify, you and Luke were not watching the monitor live?
Yeah, no, we were watching it live, but then they would break for commercials, and then Jeff would run in with all the different numbers and different odds on this and this place and that, and then we had to sit and wait for the next one. And so.
And finally, my question, I was going to ask who paid for dinner, you or Luke, but now that I know Jeff Solomon was there, no way he paid. Who paid for dinner?
We haven't had dinner yet, but he will not play. That you were right, Jeff. That we don't have to have odds and predict that. We know that will happen.
Blakey, thanks for the time. Thanks everyone for joining us, and stay safe. And we look forward to seeing everyone real soon.
Thanks, guys.
Enjoy the summer.